Welcome to Week 1 in Rhetorical Theory. I'm Dr. Heidi Harris, and I'm going to walk you through the activities and readings for Week 1 in the class, talk to you a little bit about the discussion board, and just get you started with thinking about rhetorical theory in general. So I'm going to start here at our course Blackboard page, and I'm going to click on the schedule link to take us to the schedule for the course where we're going to access the weekly page and the activities. Each week you'll see Week in Theme is the first column at the left, and you'll see a hyperlink directly under the dates, and those hyperlinks will take you to the Weebly website where the descriptions of the activities are located. For this week, we can see we have 2 readings linked into the schedule as well. Sometimes your readings will be from the Synoptic History book. Sometimes they'll be linked in. I recommend that you first of all get somewhere you can print, click on these links, print these materials off so you can read them at your own pace, kind of not necessarily online. This course is reading intensive. You'll need to complete the readings to be able to be successful for the course. We're starting out this week kind of light on the readings. We only have about 24 pages of reading. You can expect to read up to 60 or 70 pages of text a week for the class in future weeks, but we're just going to kind of ease in with these first readings. Then you have 2 assignments: your introductory discussion board and your discussion in Week 1, discussion for your Week 1 reading summary and your reading summary itself. And I'll talk about those here in just a second. You see your due dates over here at the right. The only place that due dates are located in the class is on this course schedule, so you might make sure that you print out a copy or move these to a calendar that you use so you know what your due dates are for the term. So in Week 1 you have 4 main tasks. First of all, familiarize yourself with the course activities and introduce yourself and familiarize yourself with your colleagues in the class. Read the first 2 readings which are posted in your course schedule. Discuss those readings with your classmate in the introductory discussion board, and then write your first reading summary. So first of all, becoming familiar with the class materials and other students. You should be in the process of, if you're watching this video, the first part of that, which is getting familiar with the class, understanding the documents that you'll need and activities you'll be completing. And then I'd like you to go to the discussion board and introduce yourself. So first of all, you'll go back to the Blackboard site. You'll click on Discussion Boards here at the left, that tab. And then you're going to go to the Introductory Discussion Board, click on that link, and introduce yourself. It might not look exactly like this because I'm the instructor. It might open to a different type of page. But either way, there should be an option on there for you to create a thread. I'd like you to click on that. And then there'll be the instructions for the discussion board, and you can go here and type your subject and create a thread. And I would recommend every time that you post a new message on Blackboard, having a subject line that's descriptive for that message, not just necessarily introduction or here I am, something unique and original. So I'm going to type the subject line. I'm going to type my text in this box here, and then I'm going to click submit. You might not be able to see other people's posts in the class until you post a post on some of the discussion boards, and others you will be able to see your classmates before posting. What I'd like you to do once you create that introduction in your discussion board is to go back in, click on your original thread, and then go up here to the right hand side and subscribe to that thread. And what that allows you to do are get messages to your UALR email whenever anyone replies to you, and that way you can keep up with your Blackboard discussions just by logging on to your UALR email account. You can subscribe to any threads that you'd like. So if you found a really interesting discussion under another classmate's thread, you can subscribe to that thread and you'll get notifications when that discussion continues as well. It's very important for the discussion board grades that you engage in this way, so I would recommend subscribing to threads or forums wherever possible, and it should be possible every week in the class. What I would like you to do in your introductory message is talk about how you would define rhetoric. So some of you might have taken the rhetorical theory class at the undergraduate level at the department, or some of you might never have taken a rhetorical theory class. Some of you might have been teaching Comp 1 or Comp 2 for a while, and so you understand the concept of rhetoric because of the outcomes in that class. So just kind of take a minute and tell us what you think rhetoric, how you think rhetoric is defined, what your experiences with rhetoric are. If you don't know much about rhetoric, if you're brand new to rhetoric itself, you might do some research online, get familiar with what it is, and then post kind of your definition of rhetoric or what you think rhetoric is. After you've submitted your post, like I said, you can subscribe and then just check your email throughout the week for that. The readings in the class. The first readings in the class are linked into this course schedule. So we have one from Lloyd Bitzer, who's one of the godfathers of rhetoric, and he's defining a concept called the rhetorical situation. And it's a concept in rhetoric that we kind of take for granted, the interaction between audience, purpose, occasion, and the speaker, rhetoric, him or herself. So read through this, get a good sense of what the rhetorical situation is, and then your second reading is from a man named Richard Vatz, again another one of the pillars of the history of rhetoric, especially the contemporary version. And he is basically saying no. There's no such thing as a rhetorical situation. It's a construct that we make up. It doesn't make any sense. And these are kind of ends of a spectrum. And the reason I give you these two readings the first week is that I want you to see that rhetoric is fluid. We'll study the classical rhetoricians, and then when we move into contemporary times, we'll see that a lot of what we learned in the classics kind of gets turned on its head. The things that we took for granted about audience are not exactly the same in contemporary rhetoric. So Bitzer and Vatz are two ends of a spectrum that you'll be reading for this week. So if you feel a little bit confused or put off by the fact that there is no specific conclusion about whether or not there's a rhetorical situation, no, there isn't. There isn't necessarily a conclusion or a definition of rhetoric that everyone believes or applies to. So get what you can from the readings, develop your own sense of whether or not the rhetorical situation exists, and kind of practice in this first week understanding the nature of rhetoric as it's constantly in flux. I've linked in another reading to the website. If you're new to graduate study, if you're new to reading these kinds of readings, there's a little essay by a guy named Mike Bunn who talks about reading like a writer, and a lot of the concepts that he talks about are really helpful for thinking about the texts that we're going to read. So if you're really struggling with reading the text in the course, you might scroll through this piece, read this, and think about not only the way that the texts are presenting information, but also how they're presenting information. And that will be important later. So are they assuming the audience understands what they're talking about? Do they add information that you need to look up? What kind of are the contexts for the readings that we're doing? So once you have read the readings, or while you're reading the readings, you'll return to that first introductory discussion board, create a new thread in there, and talk about the reading. So after you've introduced yourself and kind of set that thread apart, then you can talk about the reading for week one. And the reason that we have a discussion board each week are basically to discuss with the class difficult parts of the reading. So I'll be in the discussion board fielding questions. Your classmates can come in and field questions, ask questions. They're discussion boards get you ready for writing the reading summaries. So in your reading for week one, maybe there's a point that Bitzer makes that you're not really clear about. So I'm struggling with blah, blah, blah. Or maybe you really agree with Bitzer and you don't agree with Vatz, vice versa. Think about the discussion boards for the readings as places where you would talk to each other just like you would in a face-to-face graduate seminar. So go in, post about the readings, and then as you would with your introductory discussion thread, go in and subscribe to that, get notifications, and then chat about those readings with your classmates. So discuss all week, and then once you're done with your discussion, you feel concrete about the readings, or as concrete as you're going to be, then do your first reading summary, and that should be done in Google Docs, submitted to Google Drive. Watch the video after this introductory week one video to talk about how to use Google Drive. But in your summaries, you should provide an overview of each of the texts that you've read, so a true summary, so 2 to 3 paragraphs that really hit the main points of each text, including the thesis. Identify passages that you found particularly interesting. So maybe there's a section that really you hadn't thought about before. Put those in there. Make sure you cite pages so we can all find those passages as well. And then each week I'm going to ask you a question that I'd like you to answer at the end of your summary and discussion. And here's the week 1 reading summary question. Again, what is rhetoric? So after you've read the rhetorical situation essays, have you changed your definition of rhetoric? What do you think rhetoric is? And then talk about whether you agree more with Bitzer or Vatz. And it's really interesting because I never have students come to consensus about that question. One final note about the reading summaries in this caution area here. The reading summaries in this class are different from reading responses. So what you might have done in the past about readings are talk about how you feel about the readings instead of talking about the readings themselves. In this class, I'd like you to stay focused in the reading. So you can talk about your reaction or your response to the readings, but what I don't want to see is you kind of going off on, I did like this part of the text, I didn't like this part of the text, instead of talking about the readings. So the purpose of the reading summary are for me to understand that you've read and understood the materials, and also that you can kind of synthesize and talk about the materials in relationship to each other. I don't mind you talking about your response to them. I just don't want the response to them to be the focus of the readings. It's less about how you feel about the reading and more about what you think about the reading, if that makes any sense at all. That's it for week 1. I hope that you find these readings at least a bit enjoyable. They should be a good introduction to both the tone of the readings we're going to have this term and hopefully kind of getting you ready for the kinds of activities we're going to do throughout the term. So if you have any questions at all about the readings, the schedule, the course itself, any of the activities, what you can do if you think that your questions might benefit the rest of the class is go to the discussion board and click on this Q&A discussion board forum. Basically, this is going to help us access questions that the whole course might need to know about. So let's say you have a question about the Bitzer or the Vatz reading that you think other people would be helped by. You can create a thread and post it here, and then you can subscribe to this entire forum. So anytime anyone posts a question or an answer, you'll get the email notification in your Gmail account that they've done that. So that's it. Happy reading. Let me know what you think of the text, and I'm looking forward to working with you this term. Bye-bye.